Welcome to Westbury Analytics Radio, where ServiceNow performance analytics for senior executives comes alive. Experienced ServiceNow architects, performance management experts, and other executives in your field share insights for how to drive performance management using the power of ServiceNow performance analytics. Performance analytics is a game changer, but it requires a different way of thinking than how most people think about reporting and performance measurement. Our goal here is to help you develop that new way of thinking. I am your host, Pedro Soto. Today we are joined by special guest Mitch Stutler, CEO and co-founder of VividCharts. We discuss ways to make the most of the data that lies within your ServiceNow platform.
Hello, everybody. This is Pedro Soto, again bidding a warm welcome to our listeners for another episode of Westbury Analytics Talk Radio. I'm joined today by Mitch Stutler, CEO and co-founder of VividCharts, which is trailblazing the path of how companies offer data visualizations within their ServiceNow platform. Today, we're going to talk about something that Mitch and his team are very focused on, which has to do with how ServiceNow clients can unleash the power of the data that lies within their ServiceNow platform. But first, let's hear from Mitch about his journey and how VividCharts has become a solution that must be top of mind for every ServiceNow customer. Mitch, hi, how are you?
Hey, Pedro, I'm good. How about yourself?
Doing great, thanks. So tell us a little bit about your background and the story of VividCharts for our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually got my start in the ServiceNow world back when I was still in college. It was the summer before my senior year of college. I started an internship with Fruition Partners up in Chicago that spanned that summer. So that was really my first deep dive into ServiceNow. I got to do a lot of cool things there. I got to build out some integrations that sort of helped out the onboarding process back before onboarding was even really a thing that ServiceNow offered. So that was a lot of fun. And Fruition was great enough to let me continue to work remotely as an intern throughout my whole senior year of college. So I got to keep working on a lot of that fun stuff. And then I ultimately joined Fruition Partners after I graduated college and worked there for a bit, and then ended up moving over to Cloud Sherpas, who also did a lot of really cool ServiceNow stuff, and that's kind of around the time when I started doing a lot of custom portal builds, or back in the day it was a content management system in ServiceNow before the service portal was even available. So I started getting my toes wet with doing a lot of that interface type work within ServiceNow. And then kind of along with that, for whatever reason, whenever we had a custom report request come through or a custom chart that a customer wanted, that would get passed over to somebody on our team who's doing a lot of the custom interface work. For whatever reason, I guess it is sort of interface-based, the reporting aspect of it, but that got passed over to us, and that's where I started playing around with creating these charts ad hoc and doing some pretty cool things with those, and I started to realize how much fun it could be to do those, and also how there's definitely an opportunity there where people want to be able to do things outside of the norm with their data in the platform. So that's kind of where the seed got planted for me. And then Cloud Sherpas, shortly after that, we got acquired by Accenture. So I worked with Accenture for a couple of years there. In the last year or so, I was working as a solution architect. So I was really close to, hearing what a lot of the customers were trying to do on the platform and where they were trying to go, and help translate that to, how our team was going to help them get there. And then shortly after that, so I did that for a couple of years, and then decided I really wanted to do something out on my own with my co-founder, Rob Walsh, and we thought we'd give it a try to build something out that will help customers do a lot more with their data in the platform without having to take it elsewhere. And that's where VividCharts was born in January of 2018, and we just started developing a very minimal product in the very beginning there, but it's been rapidly improving over the past couple of years, and we're pretty excited about where it's at now and where we're going with it as well.
Yeah, something really exciting happened this year at Knowledge 19. Tell us a little bit about it, because that was really cool.
Yeah, so we were actually part of the ServiceNow CreatorCon Challenge, which is essentially a challenge where I think this year they had 250 different companies submit their applications or their business ideas. A lot of them were conceptual, some of them were already built. But basically, you enter your idea or app, and then through a series of basically judgments, you get down selected and go through different levels of interviews and kind of pitches, things like that. So we ended up getting down to the final three, which meant we got to get up on stage at the ServiceNow Knowledge event and pitch VividCharts Shark Tank style to Fred Luddy and a few venture capital guys up there, and that was a lot of fun. And we were ultimately named the winner of that challenge, which came with an investment from the ServiceNow Ventures team. So it was a pretty cool experience being able to be up there on stage with Rob and I actually grew up together. So I think we've got a pretty unique experience being able to do something like that together.
That's very exciting. That's like the Olympics of the developer world in the ServiceNow ecosystem, which is pretty large nowadays. So congratulations, that is awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. So let's dive a little bit into a subject that you have a very unique perspective and mastery of around data. And from all your experience, and now that you've been 2 years just trailblazing with VividCharts, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see that stop companies from fully leveraging their data, that incredible resource that is lying in their ServiceNow platform?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that kind of keep people from, taking full advantage of it. And I also am a firm believer that you're never going to take full advantage of your data. I think there's always going to be more and more ways to leverage it. I think, one of the most common ones I see is oftentimes you have to end up exporting it, or I shouldn't say you have to, but we end up seeing customers be faced with these very manual processes that maybe keep them from just using that data altogether, or maybe using it in a fashion that really isn't conducive to getting the full power out of it. So we definitely see pretty much every customer we talk with doing some sort of exporting data out of ServiceNow. And create PowerPoint presentations, maybe do things in Excel where they're manually calculating formulas, whatever that might be. And I don't think it's limited to ServiceNow either. I think it's really any cloud platform or any tool in general. There's going to be inherent limitations on what you could do with the current tool set offered there. So I think basically that's a big one I see a lot of customers run into. It's just the sheer effort involved with getting that data to a readable format can sometimes be very high and potentially deter people from trying to tackle it at all, which I definitely think is a mistake, but it's definitely something we see.
Gotcha. Excellent. Yeah, we see that as well in our engagements with clients that are ready to leverage the power of performance analytics. What else? What else is something that you see that's a dynamic that's really sort of stops or slows companies down from just leveraging as much as they can their data?
Yeah, I think a big one, and you probably see this all the time too, is just skepticism about data quality. We see that quite a bit, and it's sort of my personal belief that should not hold you back at all. If anything, you should start finding ways to position your data to help improve your data quality, whether it's performance analytics indicators that help you find your data gaps, like maybe parts that are giving you problems or places that you're not getting that correct data stream into ServiceNow in one way, shape, or form. I definitely think the data quality is something that you'll hear naysayers harp on quite a bit, especially sometimes internally in projects. If people are potentially trying to combat going forward with an engagement or a project of any sort, that's something that see quite a bit too. So I think that's a big one. And then I think, obviously the learning curve involved with learning any tool that handles data can definitely be prohibitive as well. You can make a tool as easy as possible. Like, in my opinion, performance analytics is set up really nice, but you definitely need to know how to use it. And that's really every tool in general. You need to know the data structures you're trying to report on. You need to know what you're trying to get at. You can't just go digging in a mine and try to find what you're looking for. You have to have a pretty clear vision. So I definitely think those are some things that are also holding customers back in that sense from really harnessing the data that they already have.
Agreed. Yep, we see that as well. In your opinion, Mitch, what is at stake for companies that don't effectively leverage the power of their data as much as they should?
I think you're probably falling behind. I think the playing field is the less you leverage your data, the less level that playing field becomes, because your competitors are going to be doing that, and they're going to find unique ways to use that data to gain competitive advantages. So from a business perspective, I think that's really what you gain to lose is ground, and you ultimately might even lose a market that you once controlled if you don't start taking advantage of the data that you're collecting at an exponential rate now. It tells you a lot about your business, and it tells you a lot about your inefficiencies or your efficiencies, and helps you drive towards those. So I definitely think you're at risk of losing a ton of competitive ground if you don't move forward with a lot of the data components you already have in place.
Yeah, I agree. I've noticed something in my tenure working in the ServiceNow ecosystem. Excuse me, and that is that as customers migrate from their previous platform, whatever it may have been of the former platforms, into ServiceNow, I mean, just migrating platforms to ServiceNow, they get a huge benefit, a range of benefits: cost reduction, customer satisfaction improvement, process improvement. And it's my theory, and I'd like for you to comment on it any which way, whether you agree or disagree, is that because there's such a big benefit in just making a move, and maybe a year, 2 years, customers are really focused on acclimating their entire processes and culture to the new platform, that they don't really perceive the potential and the risks, as you've just shared, of continuing to leverage their data much more. Is that something you see?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think some people just get so hyper-focused on that initial implementation that it kind of falls to the wayside. And, that's something that it kind of takes me back to, when I was a solution architect and we'd be scoping out engagements with, future customers. Oftentimes the reporting or, the performance analytics was an afterthought, which in my opinion, it really needs to be at the forefront of what you're doing. You need to have those goals laid out up front, and you need to have a good strategy for measuring them, because if you're not measuring them, there's very little chance you're going to hit any of these goals or objectives that you laid out. So I think it's something that with every implementation, whether you're, day one on ServiceNow or you're year 3 and you're adding a new product line like, customer service management or HR or project management, whatever it is, you need to know what you're trying to track, and you need to have a solid plan for tracking that. It's going to be a lot harder to do a year into the project or a year into using the tool than if you did it up front and made it a priority at the beginning. And I think you lose a lot of ground with that too, especially in the PA front. If you don't have your performance analytics indicators set up from the get-go or from day one of implementation or go live, you're missing out on a lot of valuable data as you go.
Agreed. So you mentioned PA just a moment ago, and you probably get this question a lot, and I'd love for our listeners to have the benefit of your insight. How do PA and VividCharts coexist? Some people may think they're redundant, they're competitive. How do you answer that for folks that are trying to figure out the role and the place of VividCharts and PA in their ServiceNow environment?
Yeah, it's a good question. We from day one position ourselves as, a company that's going to help you get more out of your PA implementation. And if you really think about what performance analytics is at the core, it's not a visualization tool, which a lot of people think it is, just because a lot of people try to bucket reporting and visualization and analytics all in the same bucket. While they're very related, they're not the same thing. The true value of performance analytics is what it's doing with that data over time and how it's collecting it and how it's helping you actually visualize and drive that performance. What it's not something that is made to, go out and create, bespoke views or report cards or, presentations or things like that. Well, you could get very close with it oftentimes. It's just not its core competency. So from day one, we position it, okay, you've already invested in performance analytics. You know how valuable having the data in the platform and reporting on it in the platform is for a myriad of reasons. Now, why don't you add this other capability to your arsenal that plays really well with PA, that integrates with performance analytics, that helps you get that PA data in front of larger groups of audiences and in a lot of different formats as well, and with a lot of stylistic flexibility and also, collection flexibility too. So that's where we come into play, is we could really start broadcasting the value of PA throughout an organization. And that's why we've had a very solid relationship with the ServiceNow PA teams, both on the sales and product side, just because they know we're here to help and they see how we fit in as well.
That's awesome. So another way of looking at it is, so you have PA, and I'm sure you see this fairly frequently as we do, clients that are working with PA, but they also have some other BI tools, it could be Tableau and the Power BI, all these other ones. And,
right.
And they're also using them, but obviously they have to take out the data, all those manual processes, all that stuff we've talked about. So here they can, and a lot of the times they do it because of the more flexibility they have with visualization and all that stuff, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of like harps on one of our biggest, internal messages that we kind of rally around as a team. We don't really view a particular company as a competitor. We really view our competitor as data leaving the ServiceNow platform. So we're going to do whatever we can to defend against that. We're going to help our customers get what they need to keep that data in platform, because there's a lot of negative impacts to taking it out of the platform. And that's something that's one of ServiceNow's goals as well. They obviously will help you get the data wherever you need it, but at all costs, if they can, they'd like you to keep it in ServiceNow. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that. So we're really just trying to help shore up those use cases where customers, historically would potentially be taking that data out of ServiceNow.
Very cool. So as in every market and every niche, there are the leaders and the early adopters. I'm sure you're getting to work with some of them. What are you noticing? What are some of the insights you're seeing about what those leaders are demanding and what they're hoping to do, really just like innovatively with their data that of course you're enabling? And what I'm trying to do is I'd love to just spark the imagination of those companies that really haven't gotten around to a mindset of just leveraging as much of the data as possible. What are the kind of things that are ahead and on the horizon from leading companies that you're working with, of what they're looking to do with their data, what they're looking from solutions like yours?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. One of the big things, and the way I like to think about it is, right, like why are you getting onto ServiceNow? Okay, we're trying to automate all these processes that are historically high touch and expensive processes and inefficient. So customers are going through all of this hassle to automate their processes, but one thing that hardly anybody thinks about that's a huge problem, but a lot of these leaders, the early adopters of the VividCharts, what they're noticing is they're spending an insane amount of time manually preparing presentations that use ServiceNow data, regardless of what that is. Maybe it's like an infographic. Oftentimes it's literally a slide deck. Like one of our most recent customers, they were every month or every quarter, they were creating a 200 slide PowerPoint deck that largely used ServiceNow data, and they realized and they recognized how much time that was taking and how expensive that process was, when really the only thing that was changing was the data periodically. So I think you're going to start seeing a lot of companies view that as the next automation front, is that reporting side that doesn't need to be manual and doesn't need to be high touch every month or every week or every quarter, whatever it is.
Yeah, agree. Yep, seen those cases as well. Excellent. What else? What other things are you noticing in the leaders?
Yeah, I think a lot of the leaders also are really getting to the point where they're starting to view the different personas who need the data. And they're starting to think about the different vehicles for how to get it there. And I know this is something that the performance analytics team thinks about quite a bit as well. Is, okay, you've got the people doing the work, like maybe the traditional ServiceNow users that everyone's used to, like the ITIL users, which is what a lot of the initial out-of-the-box reporting was geared to, was those people. But now, as we're bringing all of these different processes into ServiceNow, like HR, CSM, whatever it might be, that brings a whole new group of users and personas who still needs that data from ServiceNow, but they might not be ServiceNow experts. They might not know how to get to that data themselves. So we've been seeing a lot of these, thought leaders in the space that are working with us. We've seen a lot of them thinking about that, about, okay, how do we get this data to our CIO or to our CEO, even we see in some cases, without having to do this in a manual process and without having them go through a laborious exercise to get to that data. How do we just get it up, whether it's in a portal, maybe an easy to read scorecard, dashboard, whatever it is, that they could get to that data and get what they need whenever they need it without it being stale, which you would typically see if you're using an external tool of some sort. So I think you're going to see a lot in that direction. And then something that performance analytics is doing a great job of, in my opinion, especially with the new workspaces coming out, is on the embedded analytics front. So when you think about getting the insights to the people who need them when they need them, that's really where embedded analytics is coming into play. And you'll see that in a lot of those demos where you see the new agent workspaces. You'll see the really nice looking PA indicators embedded right on the form that user is working on, so they can make more informed decisions as they work. So I think we're going to see a lot of that coming from the PA team as well. And then kind of on the last point, I think we're going to see a lot of movement in value reporting over the next couple of years. I think a lot of people, especially platform owners within customers, they know how much value they're getting out of ServiceNow, in the back of their mind, but they're maybe having a tough time actually getting that on paper. So I think we're going to see a lot of stuff that's helping translate that data and what's going on in ServiceNow into hard numbers that really solidifies the value of working in ServiceNow.
Yeah, sounds like you've got a bright future at VividCharts and those companies helping companies really do all these things, as you mentioned. Mitch, thanks. I want to start closing and love for you to share some exciting things coming up for VividCharts, also how folks would either reach out to you or to your company if they want to learn more, engage with you a little bit further, see if it might be the right time for them to take you up on your awesome solution.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got some cool things coming down the pipe on the product front. I won't get into too much detail, but pretty shortly you're going to see some things that make it a lot easier to really take a would-be reader of the data. So you think about like the consumers of the data and help them become the creators of the data too. So you'll see a lot of things from us that's going to really make that learning curve as smooth or low as possible to start creating things in VividCharts, which I think is going to go a long way for our customers. And then we're going to do some really cool things around what you could do with, parameterization or filtering or things like that. And probably in the early part of next year as well. So some really cool things coming down the pipe. And then something else that we've got in the works too that we're really going to start accelerating quite a bit with one of our new teammates is we're going to start creating a lot more pre-built content. So what I mean by that is, if somebody becomes a customer of VividCharts, they don't necessarily have to go build their own content. They can look to us who have already created things that we see, most of our customers or most of the industry doing, and just flip it on and start using it right away. So that's coming as well. And really, to get in touch with us, you could email any of us directly. Our email addresses are on our website. You can chat us up on our website at vividcharts.com. And yeah, just reach out to any of us. We're happy to help however we can.
Oh, excellent. Mitch, I really want to thank you on behalf of our listeners for taking time out of your busy schedule to share from your experience, which is vast and obviously has produced a really amazing solution like VividCharts. Really appreciate it, and hopefully we can do this again in the future.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Pedro. I really appreciate having me on. I'm a big fan of what you all are doing, so I'm excited to keep seeing where you guys go.
Thanks, Mitch. And to our listeners, till next time. Bye-bye.
We see a time when all business leaders using ServiceNow Performance Analytics will easily know how to leverage its power to help them reach their business goals. Performance Analytics offers you a way to do that. To discover how you can get there faster, send us an email to info@westburyanalytics.com.